Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Nepute, and let me give a happy Father's Day shout out to all you dads out there. I know we've got three of them, three dads in here with us right now, and lots listening at home. So happy Father's Day, everyone. For those of you that have not heard our program before, we've got myself, Dr. Eric Nepute. We have in studio with us, as always, is Ryan, our jack of all trades, master of maybe one or two. And then we have our producer, Kane, as well, with us joining.
Hello.
All right. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Let's get into the program. Again, for those that maybe this might be the first time listening to the show, again, my name is Dr. Eric Nepute. We are on live every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you know, my background, I'm a doctor of chiropractic by trade. I run a wellness center, an integrated wellness center in St. Louis that has medical doctors, we have therapy, we have nutritional healers, we have chiropractors. I mean, it's literally a one-stop shop for everything. And our purpose is not to get on the airwaves to just promote what we do, but it's to really share with the people that there's a better way to live. There's a happier way to live. There's a healthier way to live. Because, you know, what if everything that you knew about healthcare was a lie? Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but what if it was? What if you didn't know that that there are certain vitamins, nutrients, minerals that if your body was deficient, it could be causing all of your symptoms? You know, the whole purpose of this show is for us to get out there and to share with everyone that we can across the globe that there's a happier, healthier, better way to live. And we may not give you all the answers, but we're going to give you all the options. And we've been doing this now for quite some time, and we've had unbelievable feedback. I mean, we had programs that we've talked with people about GMOs and good nutrition. We've had doctors on that specialize in the treatment of kids and how to help with ADD and ADHD, and just the feedback we're getting is huge. As a matter of fact, just last week's show, we had a huge a program that we had Dr. Ted Corinne on the show, and Dr. Ted is a world-renowned researcher and practitioner, and he really specializes in ADD, ADHD, autism, and vaccines. And we must have hit a hot topic last week because we were talking about vaccines, pros and cons of vaccines, and we want to give people the information and all the truth so they can make their own informed decisions.
Yeah, it was amazing how, people are real passionate one way or the other. And again, Dr. Eric was just making it to where people could hear both sides, because oftentimes you just don't hear that other side.
That's true.
Yeah.
We always hear the pros of vaccines, but never the cons.
Yeah, we ended up getting an email, or 97.1, somebody posted a big, long, it was a mom that posted just a huge post on the 97.1 Facebook page, and she was talking about how she had, I'm kind of cliff noting it, but that she had kids, and her belief is that one of her kids was affected by a vaccine and ended up, I guess, passed away. And it was of her opinion that it was caused by a vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, what I liked the most about it was, this lady started her email off, and you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. Let's post that email on our Facebook page, which they can find that at Nepute Wellness. That's Nepute Wellness, where she basically said, listen, I was driving around. There was nothing on the radio. I came across this radio station and just fell in love with it, which our producers, if you're listening right now, maybe we should...
Jeff Allen likes that.
Yeah, he does. And that's good. But the deal is that she says, wow, this is amazing. There's this information on the airwaves that no one else is talking about, because that's the truth. No one is going mainstream giving you the information that you need to make decisions. You know, she said in that email that her pediatricians, told her there's absolutely no risk whatsoever, which after talking to Dr. Corin last week, we know that's a lie. So at least admit that there's a chance of an injury to be caused. And then she went in. So after the first round of vaccines, the mother claims that the child wouldn't sleep well. It was crying nonstop. They went in, I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks later for a follow-up. The doctor says, that's totally normal. There's nothing to be concerned about. Let's go ahead and do the next round of vaccines since you're already here. The mom said she went home that day. Again, paraphrasing it, the child then stopped eating, would stop moving. They called the pediatrician. The pediatrician said, listen, you just have a lazy child. This is exactly what is in that email. And
what?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's what they said.
It was lazy child?
Lazy child.
Yeah, it's like they call it like a
term?
syndrome. Yeah, it's like lazy baby syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could be, again, I'm not a pediatrician. I've never heard of it. but I don't know too many infants that are lazy. Okay, they sleep and they
No
poop
kidding.
and that's all they do, and they eat. And then she said, I don't know how many days later, but she woke up one morning and her baby was dead.
Yeah.
You
And it
gotta
was of
kid
her
me.
belief that,
And in there, the coroner's report, in what she said her child died of SIDS.
Yep.
And you've heard of SIDS before,
Yeah,
right?
well, it's essentially what they tell you when they don't know.
That's exactly it. So here's the thing. And then this is also in Dr. Corinne's book. So I would really encourage all of you to go to our Facebook page, go to our website, and look for the link where you can get Dr. Corinne's book about child vaccinations.
And yeah, you're even doing
We are going to do a workshop on it, which I'll talk about. But in his book, he talks about, now listen to this. There was a study that was done in Japan. And I believe it was in the early 90s that they did this. I don't have it in front of me, but I do have a copy of it. So if anybody wants to see a copy, just let me know and we'll get it out there. But what they did was in Japan, the child mortality, infant mortality rate was so high that they said, we got to do something different. And a lot of these kids were dying from SIDS. And I think it was like 80% of children, there's a crazy amount of kids that were dying of SIDS. So what they did was between the ages of 0 and 2, they took out the MMR vaccine and a couple other vaccinizations. And they put them in to start at the age of 2. Instead of 0 to 2, they started at 2. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So far.
So what happened was the rate of SIDS went almost non-existent from the 0 to 2-year-old group by taking out those vaccines. But guess what happened to the kids between 2 years old and 3? It went off the charts high. So what do you need to see to show there's a correlation? It's just like Dr. Corinne said the other day, that there's there's not a lot of good studies that shows the big question is, are vaccinated kids healthier than non-vaccinated kids? And I just last week got an Facebooked from our workshop our talk that we did last Sunday. A mother sent me a link that said 10 kids in this area of the world just got a vaccine or an outbreak of measles and they all died. And she's like, see, this is why I'm scared about getting the measles or getting my kids vaccinated. But the reality of it was,
guess what?
All those kids had the vaccine. All of them did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a double-edged sword. So anyway, listen, I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm here to give you as many options as you can. And listen, the deal is the research supports this. What we're saying, the research says it. So it's not just some pie-in-the-sky deal. Remember, Dr. Corinne, he had the FTC and government agencies coming after him by making these claims of vaccines are not as healthy as they thought. And you know what? When a government agency comes after you about something, usually you're toast. Right? I mean, look at all the stuff going on in the news right now with the IRS.
Right.
I mean,
they want to crush you.
They want to.
If they want to, they could.
Well, they can if they don't run out of money.
Yeah,
they print
just
more.
Print more.
So the deal is that they said to him, you know what? After he presented all the research to him, let's go ahead and move on to something else because we don't want to get into that. So he beat them. You know what I mean? He beat them because he had the research.
And just to clarify, I looked it up. It's not lazy. It's called floppy baby syndrome. Floppy baby syndrome.
Are they just making things up now? I mean,
it's amazing what's out there because just like
floppy baby.
Okay,
syndrome,
you want to talk about
called?
something crazy? Listen to this. Ryan and I were talking about there was a huge Supreme Court decision that just was passed over this last week between our last production. So tell us a little bit, Ryan, about what's going on.
I'll tell
in the
you,
news.
you did not hear this in the news because I didn't see this anywhere. But the Supreme Court just ruled in a unanimous ruling that human genes cannot be patented. So what it did is it invalidated thousands of patents that have already been granted on human genes, including the one that we talked about the other day, which is that BRCA gene, which is the one that Angelina Jolie supposedly had, that she had that double mastectomy.
First revelation, there were genes that were already patented?
Apparently, I didn't know about this either. I was clueless to this. So apparently they were trying to patent genes because if they can do that, they have to basically, if they do that, no one else can research it.
The medical association has to go through them in order to deal with that.
You can't research
gene.
it. You
That's
can't
right.
detect it. You can't do anything without paying a royalty if somebody owns that.
This is a money thing.
It's all, we've always
a big
said
money
follow
thing.
the money,
That's all it is.
because then there'll be drugs for that. And we have coming up in the very near future, we have a couple doctor friends of mine that practice, one in Norway and one in Belgium, that are going to be joining us, via the airwaves. And they have a big problem in Europe. You know how we can go to the health food store and buy vitamins?
Right.
They can't do that over there.
Wow,
They
really?
their government agencies have regulated vitamins just like they regulate narcotics here.
Yeah.
It's a crazy deal. And
Wow.
just so you know, that's something that's been trying to come down the pipe several times in the United States.
Well, I don't really see if this Obamacare thing ends up going through. I don't really see how that wouldn't happen, or at least try to happen right here.
Hell, I don't know. Here's what I do know. What I do know is that being healthy is not that difficult if you have the right options and
Right.
you know what you're supposed to do. You know, it's just like baking a cake. If you have the right ingredients, you put a little of this in, a little of that, you let it sit for the right time, you're going to be healthy. So what people need to come to the realization of is it doesn't matter what sickness, disease, symptom, disorder, dysfunction you have. I don't care what you've been diagnosed with. You have to ask the question, why do I have this? And we have talked about how genetics have very little to do with that. It's really more a genetic expression.
So what kind of things, like, because you just said, like, no matter what you've been, I mean, what do you see? I mean,
Well, let
like,
me
what
tell
are
you
we
this.
talking about?
Who in here has ever heard of chronic pain before? Who's heard of headaches, migraines, irritable bowel syndrome, sore stiff joints, all this stuff? Very easy once you find the cause of the problem to correct. So we don't treat those diseases. We treat the cause of the diseases, and whammo, that's what everybody needs to be doing. If you get to the cause of the problem, that'll fix your symptoms, and you don't have to be on a pill the rest of your life. You know, but most people need to understand is that they've had problems going on for a long time, and it's going to take some time to correct that because they have to get to the cause. Right. And most of the cause is how they've lived their life the past 20 years, which actually brings me into what we're going to be talking about on the show today. We are very fortunate to have a very special guest joining us today from Dallas, Texas. It's Father's Day. I couldn't get him to fly up for Father's Day. But Rick Sapio is joining us, and he'll be joining us after our first break here in a minute. And let me give you a little background on this guy. So started his first company when he was a kid. You know, he was repairing bikes, or he'll tell his story. But the bottom line is this guy has helped tens and thousands of people grow businesses, have happy, healthy lives. I don't really know how to classify him. He's not like just a business coach or a life coach. He's like a guru to help you take your life from where it is now to the next level. And he's going to talk about how people's thinking gets in the way of their life and how we can take a couple action steps. If we just do these one or two things he's going to teach us about today, that we can start taking our life back and getting back to that abundance of life that we talk about in the program all the time. So Rick's going to be joining us in a minute. So I'm going to encourage all of you to get your friends, your family, your loved ones, turn the radio up, get on our Facebook page at www.neputewellness.com, and we'll be back in a couple minutes with Rick Sapio.
Are you hanging on the edge of your
9-7. This is Wellness Matters with Dr. Eric Nepute.
Welcome back to Wellness Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Nepute, and a happy Father's Day to all you guys out there. Like we were talking before the break, we've got a very special guest that's joining us on the phone from Dallas, Texas. We have a gentleman by the name of Rick Sapio, and I know some of you may not have heard the introduction on this guy, and I can't introduce him enough. You know, he's a mentor of mine. I've studied his teachings now. I just got into his work a couple months ago. I like to do something every year to make myself better. A couple things, you know. And so what I did this year was I joined a program that he has, and the program is called Chiro Finishing School. And it's like a business finishing program for doctors. You know, in medical school and chiropractic school, they teach us how to diagnose and treat and all that stuff, but that's where it stops. Yeah. Where it comes to running your business and how to help people and how many of y'all have been to the doctor before, and the biggest complaint that I hear is they don't know how to talk to you, they can't communicate, there's no systems.
You wait in line for 45 minutes.
So Rick has actually helped not just me, but thousands and thousands of doctors across the planet take their lives and their practice to the next level. But not only does he do that, the guy he's helped people take their life to the next level. And I'm really interested to hear, you know, Rick share some of his new programs and his technology and his work that he's got with us. And so, Rick, are you on the program with us? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me good?
We can. So, Rick, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. We know it's Father's Day, and you know, for you to join us and share with our listeners, you know, Rick, about your technology and about your teachings is just great. So I want to thank you for that.
Hey, you're very welcome. Glad to be here.
So, Rick, like I said before, you know, most people that I know that are on the program that join me, you know, I can talk to them because there's a doctor coming in, and let's say he's a specialist in neurology, or he's a guru in how to help with kids. You know, Rick, in my opinion, and please tell me if I'm wrong, or maybe you can elaborate on this, but the way I look at you is, not only can you help businessmen and women take their business to the next level, but you also have some teachings that can help take people's lives to the next level. And I'd love to hear a little bit tell us a little bit about your business finishing school. And I want to get into, I don't know if you guys know this, but Rick just got done doing a TED Talk as well. Have you heard of TEDx, TED TV?
Yeah,
before?
I've heard it. Yeah.
It's one of the
big
YouTube?
deal.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. There's millions of people that subscribe to this thing, and it's an honor to be asked to do this thing. And Ted and Rick just did one. So, Rick, tell us a little bit about business finishing school. Tell us a little bit about you. How'd this all get started? Let's get into it.
Wow. So let me go all the way back. I just want you to know at the age of 50, I just found out 2 weeks ago that my wife is pregnant with
Oh,
number
my
4.
goodness. Congratulations.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's
And
awesome.
Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you. So I started late at 46. I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and one cooking in the oven right now.
Congratulations, man. That is too cool.
Thanks. And thanks to you guys, I got my first chiro adjustment at the age of 48.
Right on.
And
I love it.
Dr. Gentempo convinced me to lay off all the drugs. And so our 1-year-old was born completely drug-free in every way, and she's never been touched by the normal medical community yet.
Yeah.
And the healthiest little baby girl that you could ever imagine.
That's
So
great,
thank
man.
you guys for all you do.
Yeah, that's great.
I was listening in before. So let me start at the very beginning so you get a sense of where I came from. I feel extremely blessed to be the 7th of 9 children. And for the listeners to understand why this is so important, my parents had dinner on the table every night. And when you fast forward 50 years, all the kids are married. There's 0 divorces. And when you consider that at 13, my dad died. I was 13 and he died, and it left my mother alone without a job to raise all the kids. So there was a lot of chaos. And yet, I think of my happy childhood prior to that. So we could have gotten a free pass in life because our dad died. We could have gotten into bad things.
Sure.
But when you think about having a family dinner on the table, I remember the things my dad talked about. He talked about staying married for life. He talked about working hard. He talked about entrepreneurship. He talked about values. And as a give back and a kind of memory to my dad, my wife and I started something online. It's absolutely free. It's called FamilyPlacemat.com. And it's basically something that goes on the dinner table, and it encourages families to have dinners without electronics together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And on this placemat, we've got a sample up there. You could put your wedding vows, your values, Ben Franklin's 13 virtues. We've got a lot of things like do's and don'ts of the house,
Sure.
prayers, all kinds of things. So we've encouraged thousands of families to get back to having family dinners together. So you asked me a lot of questions, but it was born, finishing school was born at those meal times. I love what Ronald Reagan said. All great things in America start at the family dinner table.
Oh, yeah.
So it was born there, and my dad talked in principles. And so I've learned to think in terms of principles. And I was sitting on the board of a company, and they said, why don't you take these principles you talk about, because they're good for family and life, and why don't you create a program? And so 3 years ago, we got behind the camera, and we started teaching principles for more leverage, simplicity, and probability in business and life. And that's what you're in, Eric.
That's true. You're absolutely right. And Rick, I think, and a lot of our listeners, this may be the first time they're ever hearing anything like this, Rick. I mean, like yourself, I've studied self-improvement and personal mastery and all these things. I feel like every day we should work on trying to be a better version of ourselves. And part of that is, being a family, especially on Father's Day.
Yeah.
I think this is a great day to be
sure.
talking about this type of stuff, Rick, because I think as a dad, a lot of times, we may be thinking that Father's Day is a day just that dad doesn't have to do anything.
Right, yeah.
I think that Rick, Father's Day should be a day that we really celebrate the unique ability that we have as men, head of our households, to share these values with our families. And in my opinion, one of the most important values, at least maybe not value, but the most important asset that a person can have is their health and their family well-being. And I know that you teach and preach about this in your schooling. Tell us a little bit more about the core principles of what you teach in business, and then how that can apply to our lives as well, Rick.
Well, let's start with the perspective of looking at all of the things we do in life as they sit on top of a foundation that's solid. So let me get more clear.
Sure.
When I look at business people, especially well, any type of business person. Let's look at Cairo specifically. You have to think of yourself as a business person. Now, all of you listening, when you try to go out into the world and learn about being a better business person, whether you're Cairo or not, you're going to learn about processes and management and marketing and techniques and things like that. And all of those are great to learn. But if they're not set on top of a foundation based on principles that are long-term in nature, then it's going to be, whenever I see a house with where the wall of the house has a crack in it, I know the foundation is broken. And it's very similar to going into business. And I meet a lot of business people. I'll tell you about my background in a minute as it relates to that. But as a matter of course, I interact with a lot of business people, and they get so excited about their latest hire or their latest marketing campaign or the new blinky shiny that they just bought. And I said, that is so awesome. But why are you going bankrupt? Right. And people get excited about the weirdest things.
Yeah, they do.
If you don't have a foundation that's long-term in nature, that has all of these principles in place, that has a long-term perspective associated with it, then you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And so the program is all about, and it also fits life too, it's all about putting these principled things in place so that you can then build on top of it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, and what a lot of business people or just anyone out there that's working or any aspect of life, they need to understand what Rick just said was huge, that our businesses help support our life. It's the foundation for that. Our businesses should not be our lives, Rick, and that's one thing I have learned from you is making sure that I make my decisions on life based upon my values, which is one thing that I learned from Rick and his programs that I've not only applied to my business, but I've applied to my personal life. Like, I'm holding myself accountable to make sure I exercise and teach my kids the value of nutrition. And, I know one of the core principles, Rick, that you guys teach about in your business finishing school is value-based decision-making. Could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Let's dig in on that.
Yeah.
So I believe that unless you have a solid list of values for which will be the guide to every decision you make in your personal life, and you also have a list for your business, it's impossible to know whether you're chasing an opportunity or a distraction. Because here's what we call it values-based decision-making, and we have a nickname for it called the doorman principle.
Right.
I want all of you listeners to imagine that you sat down, took a day or a week or a month, and you figured out what your values are, and you handed it to this imaginary doorman. And nothing from this point forward in your life will get past the doorman in your life unless it's fully aligned with your values. Because I will assert that every single problem that you've ever had in your life or your business, everyone started when you let somebody past your doorman that didn't belong in your life.
Yeah.
And I had a guy argue with me. He said, well, that's not true. I married somebody. We got divorced 20 years ago. And I said, she's still not in your life? And he said, no. I said, well, you're paying alimony and you hate her guts. He said, well, good point. So every time we let a project or a person into our life that doesn't align, we pay, and we pay miserably.
Wow, that's a great point.
Yep. So you got to start with values-based decision-making. So I've taught this for many years, and people, they hear it, they think about it, and then they go on without figuring out what their values are. So you've got to do some work. And so, Eric, we have this as Module 1 in the program because it scares a lot of people away.
Sure.
It's Module 1. Figure out what your values are and make all your decisions based on those values from this point forward. If you're not willing to do that, then you're not willing to do the grueling work to have success in your life.
So, Rick, you're talking about modules, and where can people find out more information about what this is, what you're doing? You guys are making a revolution in how people think, especially in business and in life. Where can people find more information about this?
Very simple, businessfinishingschool.com.
Yeah, and if you go to our Facebook page at Nepute Wellness, we'll make sure that we tag that, and then we'll set that out in our blog as well.
I have actually got Rick Sapio, his TED Talks on our blog on Nepute Wellness. So if you go to Nepute Wellness, Nepute Wellness.com, and go to the blog section, you can actually check out that TED Talk.
Wellness Matters with Dr. Eric Nepute.
Welcome back to Wellness Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Nepute, and happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. We've had a great talk so far going with, we've got Rick Sapio joining us from Dallas on this Father's Day, and he is the CEO of a phenomenal program that I've been involved with personally that's helped my business and my personal life, go to the next level. It's the Business Finishing School. And Ryan, you were telling me, where do we have some links?
Yeah, on our Facebook page, if you go to Nepute, Nepute Wellness on Facebook, we link to his Dallas Business Finishing School, which is actually coming up September 27th to the 29th down in Dallas, Texas, where he teaches business owners. And I'm sure there's business owners that are listening, but I mean, this is really for anybody.
And that's the thing I want to make sure that everybody understands. So we have a lot of listeners all across the globe that are listening right now. They're like, well, I'm not a business person. How does this apply to the normal health and wellness talk show that I'm used to listening to? You have to understand that health is a balance in all areas of your life. I mean, you can do 1,000 sit-ups a day, eat all organic food, but if you're worried about, if your values are out of balance with your personal life and your work life, that's a sickness. That's a big problem.
We talk about that all the time, you and I, where we always talk about people who have these, issues, but they got to get their mind right, around it first.
You have to stop your stinking thinking. And that's actually a question that I want to ask Rick. Rick, here's the question I want to ask you and I hope you can help me answer it because it's something I've been working on, the psychology of people for some time, is that let's say a person is presented with them. Let's say they come into the doctor's office and this person has chronic pain or fibromyalgia or diabetes or whatever degenerative disease they have, and they're presented with an opportunity to correct that. But that opportunity is going to take them quite some time, Rick, because it took them probably their whole life to get this way. It's going to cost them out of their pocket some money because it's cost money to do everything in life, and they're presented with a plan and a program and action steps, but yet the person doesn't take action, or they may take action because they're excited and then they fizzle away. Do you have an answer for that at all? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, some of this is biological. I'm sure you saw the study where they put the 4-year-olds in the room and gave them a marshmallow. Thousands of kids. This was just made public recently. So they give a kid a marshmallow, and they said, if you eat the marshmallow now, we're not going to give you the second marshmallow, but if you wait 5 minutes till we come back in the room, we'll give you the second marshmallow.
Okay.
And so what they found is a very small percentage of the kids waited for waited 5 minutes without touching the first marshmallow, and they were rewarded with a second marshmallow.
Wow.
These people were long-term thinkers. It was okay for them to wait to get the reward. And these are the people that went to school, that studied hard, that started companies where they didn't make money for 10 or 15 years, that made long-term decisions. Well, they've now learned that this can be taught. And this can be taught if you can figure out what your values are and then focus on them and say no to everything else. One of my favorite quotes of all time is a quote by Warren Buffett. He says, the difference between successful people and extremely successful people is that extremely successful people say no to almost everything.
Yeah.
Well, most people walk around addicted to yes. They're saying yes to 300,000 apps on their iPhone. They're saying yes to everything in pop culture. They're saying yes, yes, yes. So until they can begin to have confidence in the values that they've chosen, and if one of their values, and I would assume it should be, since they're listening to this program, should be health, get comfortable with all your values and start making decisions through the lens of your own values. And when you start doing that, you're going to increase your confidence, and just like going to the gym, you're going to increase that muscle strength associated with making values-based decisions. Yeah. I don't know a better answer than that.
That's a phenomenal answer. And just to know that people have the ability to change the way that they think. Rick, you said that's a teachable thing. I know that it is because I've seen hundreds of my friends go through this, and I've seen thousands of patients change their life by changing their values. But I don't know. I have found that when I ask people, you know what, give me a couple of your values. What do you value in life? I think it's hard for people to pinpoint that. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I mean, they either have to do the work or not. I mean, here's one thing that's interesting. You ask people what their values are and say it differently. What are your priorities? And
sure.
I've asked many people this question, and I hear answers like this. God first, family second, career third, health fourth. I'm like, great. So if those are the four things you're focused on, let me follow you around for a weekend and see what you do.
Right.
And so they play golf, and then they go go get to the bar, and then they hang out with their buddies, and when you follow them around, they don't do any of the priorities that
Sure.
they mentioned.
Wow.
So you have to start by looking in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you'll realize, wait a minute, I'm saying these are my priorities, but my time is going elsewhere. So, it starts with you making a decision to honor what comes out of your mouth.
Well, Rick, let me ask you this. I have a caller right now on the line who's asking a question that I'd like to field to you, but I'm just instead of bringing you on, I'm gonna ask your question, and then I'm gonna let Rick answer it. It says, Rick, what do you do if you already have ruined your life up to this point? ? So I guess what they're saying is, can I be so far down the rabbit hole that I can't turn around? I know what my answer would be on that, but Rick, let me hear what your.
So, friend, I would first draw a line in the sand, step over that line, and say, from this point forward in my life, I'm not going to make any decisions that are not aligned with my chosen set of positive values. It's never, ever, ever too late. So if because you've destroyed your health, you have 2 years to live, maybe, I'll make that up.
Right.
And now by making decisions, and I call it compounding decisions. Albert Einstein talked about the theory of compounding interest
Sure.
with money. Well, when you start compounding positive decisions over time that are aligned with your values, you may live 20 years instead of 2. You may not get that 50, I don't know how old you are, but you'll definitely move it in the right direction. So you've got to start right now. And it sounds like from the question you've given up a little bit.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of power to make positive decisions.
You know, Rick, you're absolutely right. That's one thing that people need to understand. And I know that there are listeners right now that are hearing this program. This is different than I've heard on this station before. You know, how does this apply to my health and wellness? Which the very reality of this, Rick, is this is the foundation which everything builds upon. What you think about in life, you bring about in life, and you're exactly right. You show me your checkbook, and I'll show you your values. You know, if you say you value health, but yet you have a Mickey D's every day, or you don't have a gym or whatever, you know, Rick, you're right. Show me your actions, and I'll show you your values. So, another thing that I would like you to touch on. You taught me this, which I thought was huge, and I have been empowering patients with what you call the catalyzing statement. Teaching people how to make their own catalyzing statement. Can we get into that a little bit, and can you teach us a little bit more about what that means?
Of course. We've trademarked the phrase catalyzing statement, and it starts with, number one, figuring out what your purpose is. What is your purpose you were put on this earth for? And once you understand what your purpose is, and everybody has one, people go, well, not me, I'm not going to do the work to find out what my purpose is. Every minute of your life that goes by in which you haven't chosen your purpose, I believe you're ripping off the planet. The planet needs to know what your purpose is, and you have to express it. And Eric, you're expressing it right now by having this program. But by putting time in every Sunday to bring this message to the world, you're expressing your purpose. So once you figure out what your purpose is, you then have to create a catalyzing statement that catalyzes action in others. And so an example of this, so it could be very clear, is the purpose of the United States space program before John F. Kennedy, or when John F. Kennedy arrived, was to beat the Soviets in the space race. Very simple.
Okay.
But it wasn't getting done. Nothing was happening. But when John F. Kennedy said those famous words, which is a catalyzing statement because it catalyzed 100,000 people to help the cause, he said, "We will send the man to the moon and return him safely to Earth by the end of the decade of the 60s. Now think about it.
Wow.
8 short years, one of the most difficult achievements in human history happened. Now, this is taking your purpose and turning it into a catalyzing statement. And you, as a chiropractor or anybody, can come up with choose your purpose. You don't wait for it to hit you over the head. You choose it, just like you choose a spouse. And then you turn it into something catalyzing. And, we've had chiropractors say, my purpose is to cure children of autism. I'm just making that up. So you have to figure out what your purpose is.
Right.
And then create a catalyzing statement where autism will vanish from my community by 2020. Anybody can do this. Anybody can come up with a catalyzing statement. But again, you've got to do the work. And if there's any lazy listeners out there, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the reality of it is Rick, most people that I come in contact with, and I know the people that you come in contact with that seek you out to help take their life or their business life to the next level, a lot of times they are where they are because they haven't done the work. So listening to programs like this is doing the work.
Yeah.
We always have, Rick, at the end of the program, a call to action. Today's the day you need to take action. We've got another caller who's calling in right now who wants to know, are there mentor programs or team abilities? Are there things that they can do to learn more about this? And we just mentioned already, you can find out more about Rick's programs, his business finishing schools. You can go to our Facebook page at Nepute Wellness, or you can also, Ryan, we've got the link there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. On Nepute Wellness Facebook page, it's Nepute on Facebook, Nepute Wellness, and or you can go to neputewellness.com. And if you go to the blog section, we link the video of his TED Talks. But he's got that. Rick, you've got that seminar coming up in September, correct?
Yeah. So there's two things to tell you. Business Finishing School is an online program.
Right.
Every month you get a new module. Module 1 is values-based decision making, and it goes on for 4 years. This is not a quick fix. It'll take you 4 years to get through the program.
That's right.
But it's incredibly inexpensive. We want the masses to do it. And then inside the program, we put everybody in an accountability group.
That's right.
Where you meet with like-minded people. So we call it a community of learners.
Oh, that's great.
On top of that is twice a year we do a live boot camp where I meet with all the people in the program. The next one is September 27th at DFW Airport in Dallas. But all the information is on the website.
Yeah.
BusinessFinishingSchool.com.
Rick, a fellow Texan, you're not from Texas originally, correct?
No, did you hear the twang?
Yeah, no.
That's a Hoboken, New Jersey twang.
Yeah. A fellow Texan once taught me, he says, if you're willing to do what others don't, you'll always have what others won't. And that's all about doing the work. So for the listeners out there right now, those of you that are, maybe you're hurting, you have pain, you feel like your life's a mess, maybe you feel like your business is a mess, today's the day you need to take some action and start doing something. Get online, ask us questions, check out Rick's page, the Dallas Business Finishing Program. If you want to go to the next level, you got to do the work. No one's going to take you there. This is the United States of America. You need to do your own work to get your health and life to the next level. We come back after this last break. We're gonna drive home a little bit more about how we can apply what Rick's teachings can do to our lives. So
cool.
Hang tight. We're gonna be right back. 97.1 FM.
Wellness Matters with Dr. Eric Nepute.
All right, welcome back to Wellness Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Nepute. We have been speaking with Rick Sapio. He's called in from Dallas, Texas on this beautiful Father's Day weekend, and we've been talking about his business finishing school. Really, it's not just business finishing, it's life finishing, because it's foundational stuff. And Rick, I know that you didn't get a chance to hear this. Over the break, there was a young lady that called in, and I actually took the call over the break, and the sound of her voice, I mean, she's scared. She's afraid. She has nowhere to turn. Her life's a mess, and she wants to take some action steps to get her health and well-being back. So we've got literally 10 minutes, Rick, left on this program. These hour-long shows go by way too quick. And what I want to know, what are a couple things that you would like to say just to kind of drive home your teachings, why people need to do this, and just kind of give me the elevator pitch on this whole deal?
Well, they've got to they've got to stop being addicted to yes in life. And we're saying yes to so many things. And the truth is, the only thing you should be saying yes to are things that align with your values and your objectives. And like I said before, you can't really tell the difference between an opportunity and a distraction in life until you know what your values are and you know what your objectives are. And that goes for anything. If you're in a long-term marriage or your objective is to be in a long-term marriage, you know what to say yes to and what to say no to when it comes to cheating on your spouse, as an example. Well, the same thing goes for all decisions in life and business. Get very clear on what your objectives are. Get very clear on what your values are. And don't do anything else. Just do that. And my number one value personally in life, and you know this, Eric, it's simplicity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to keep my life incredibly simple. And my friends tease me because I still have an old flip phone. Yes, I don't. The average person that has a smartphone looks at their phone 400 different times a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
400. That's 400 opportunities to hang out with your kids.
Yeah, you're right, Rick. You're
to
absolutely
call
right.
your friends on the phone, to have lunch, whatever. We need to be connected as human beings, not be addicted to yes and addicted to distractions.
You're absolutely right. And listen, here's what I want to say before we let Rick go here in a couple of minutes is what he's saying is if you want to change the way you live, whether it's business or it's health or family life, you want your family life to be better or your personal, you have to take action steps to do that. Get on the web right now. Don't wait. Do right now. Get on there and click on the Business Finishing School. Look at other opportunities that are going on there. Look at in the program he's got, the boot camp in Dallas. If you want to shake up your life and change your life, get down there to that program. If you want to do something better, you got to think something better. And that's one of the things that Rick has taught me, and he's also taught me to keep it simple. And I love that. The simplicity of life, it's a beautiful thing. And Rick, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy, especially being Father's Day. Taking time out of your Father's Day when you could be with your family and kids, and his new one on the way.
Yeah,
by the way,
yeah.
That's awesome. And we want to make sure that everyone is listening and gets access to the TED Talk that he did.
Yeah. And so, Rick, they can go to businessfinishingschool.com, or we've got a link on our Facebook page to your site as well at Nepute Wellness. It's Nepute Wellness. And we just really appreciate having you on.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this some more because I know that Ryan and myself are going to be heading down to Dallas, Rick.
Yep.
And any of our listeners that are wanting to actually want to meet us personally, we're going to be down there as well. So we encourage you to get down there, check it out. If you want to take your life to the next level, it's time to start doing some action steps. So
I do want to ask people that are listening right now to have dinner with your family tonight. Come with a list of questions. Start talking. Get rid of all the damn electronics when you're sitting there.
Yeah.
Have a family dinner, like a normal family. Take an hour out of your life tonight, and that would be an incredible first action step.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's great. Rick, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, man. I know you and I will be talking in the very near future, and I'm telling you, you guys need to get plugged into what he's teaching.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is that there's nothing earth-shattering or crazy about it. It's just simple, effective, it works. So, Rick, thank you so much. Have a great day. Enjoy your Father's Day, all right?
Thanks, Eric.
All right,
Thanks, Ryan. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Take care.
Wow.
So, here's the thing is what I want to drive home with everyone that's listening right now with what they've heard today. We're not talking about vaccines. We're not talking about nutrition. We're talking about some foundational stuff. So you listening right now, whether you're driving, you're sitting on the couch, whatever problems you have in your life, whether they're emotional problems, whether they're financial problems, whether they're physical, chemical, whatever, like Rick said, make today be the day that you drew a line in the sand, you made some decisions and started taking action upon those decisions so you can get your life back.
Yeah.
We all have a purpose, and I promise your purpose is not to be hurting, it's not to be broke, it's not to be disgusted, busted, and just mentally a mess. It's to be abundant and to have life and to have it more abundantly. So I would encourage all of you to listen to the TED Talk that he did because it talks more about the value-based decision-making. And one of the action steps you can do, write down what you think your 5 or 6 values are.
That was really cool.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen people that have paid thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their health back, and it's like throwing money in a bucket with a hole in it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask how often you run into the values playing a part of health.
Well, it's huge because I can't tell you how many people I've known that have had double or quadruple bypass surgeries for their heart, and on their way home, they went through KFC or McDonald's and got something or had a smoke on the... You ever go to the hospital and walk outside and you see the people in the gowns having cigarettes?
Yeah, well, they're tied to an IV thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I mean, I just don't get that. It's because the values are a mess. The deal is this. It doesn't matter how long it takes, how much it costs. If your health and life are truly a priority and a value, you're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. If I told you, Kane, right now, I said, look, you have a terminal disease. You've got 3 months to live. It's going to cost you $1 million out of your own pocket. But if you do that, there's no question you're going to be happy, healthy, and abundant the rest of your life. You're going to live another 50 years. What are you going to do?
I don't have $1 million.
I know that, but you're going to try to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
got
it's
a big
amazing
You're
how
absolutely right.
quick all of a sudden how quick you can get real serious.
I wouldn't waste time going through the drive-thru at KFC.
No,
I'll tell
you
that
couldn't
right
afford
now.
it because you're paying all your medical
Exactly
bills.
right.
But what I'm trying to say and drive home is that point of if it is a priority to you to have something, to have a happier life, to have a more abundant life, you can't just wish about it. You know, my mom told me you can wish in one hand and do something in the other and see which one fills up first. And it's true.
Yeah.
You know, so many people need to do something. All of you that are listening, now listen to this and don't get too offended, but you have to take personal responsibility for your actions.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are overweight, it's not because you are big boned and have a genetic problem. Look at your life. It may be because you're eating poor. You're not doing the right vitamins. You're allergic to something. There's all kinds of things that you can find out to get to the root. But then the thing is this, once you find out the cause and the root, don't just go, oh, well, that's nice. Take some action on it.
I love it. One of the things that I always see every Wednesday night when you guys do your weight loss workshop there at the clinic is the people that are in there that have done exactly what you're talking about. They found that they had they found their issue and they took action steps. It's really encouraging that people people do that.
So what Ryan's referring to is a weight loss program that we are actually doing in our clinic right now. We're beta testing it to see how good it is going, and it's unbelievable.
It's
The
amazing.
folks that are doing the protocols, we've lost over 800 pounds as a group in less than 12 weeks. That's
And
awesome.
from what I've heard, it's not like an overwhelming thing.
No.
Like somebody who is apprehensive about it was like, well, it's probably all this thing I have to do and all these things I got to go
No,
to.
it's
and all
actually unbelievably simplistic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Well, that's the cool thing. That's one of the things that I synergize the most with Rick about is the simplicity. So whether you have whatever condition, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure, your kids have colic, whatever, you've got, neurological problems, find the cause and find a simple way to fix it. You don't need to spend millions of dollars on testing to, like
People, I see that in your office all the time, because that is your motto: is keep it simple.
So here's the thing: is I want to encourage all of you to start taking some action. Go to NaputeWellness.com. Check out my office. You can call us at 314-544-5600. I may not be able to help you because you live in Kenya or wherever, because we're hearing people from all over the globe that are watching us. But we'll help you find a doctor in your area, and we do that. If you're serious about getting your life back and your health back, two things I want you to do. Get in contact with a doctor who's seriously concerned about your health and wants to help get you fixed at the cause.
Yep.
And number two, I want you to get plugged into what the teachings of what Rick Sapio does. I think that's important.
Yep.
So I want to encourage all of you also to tune in next week. We've got a phenomenal show. We've got Billy DeMoss coming in,
That's
the
gonna be
rock
wild.
star of chiropractic. If you thought the vaccine talk was crazy, wait till you hear what this guy's got to say about GMOs, vaccines. He talks about all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, listen, I want to encourage all of you to listen in next week. Remember, every Sunday at 3 p.m., tune in because wellness matters.
Tell that midnight rider, tell the rambler the